All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to tonight's select board meeting, Monday, September 27th, 2021 at 7 p.m. We are meeting virtually in light of the COVID pandemic. I wanted to start tonight with it's going to be hard. Moment of silence for Henry Wheeler Jr. Henry was known to many in this town. He served the town for well over 20 years as an alternate wiring inspector and up to an interim inspector, and then finally our wiring inspector. And he also worked for the city of Marlborough for over a decade as their assistant wiring inspector as well. Funny story about Henry, I'd like to share. A few years ago, I needed a boiler. So, guys came over and they were fixing it, and they were down in the cellar, and I went down to check on them, and they said, "Oh, there was a guy down here." I said, "What guy?" "I don't know." I said, "Would you get a name?" "No." I said, "Well, why was he here?" "Oh, he said he drove by the house and there was a car parked on your lawn, so he wanted to see what was going on." I'm like, "Any idea what he looked like?" "Oh yeah, he was tall. He wore camo, a vest, and no sleeves." I'm like, I know who it is. So I called Henry and said, "What were you doing in my basement?" "Well, I was driving by, saw a truck on your lawn, figured I'd see what was going on." Said, "Never dawned on you to come upstairs, talk to me?" "Nope." I said, "Henry, don't come in my house." I said, "I'll call your mother on you." And he started laughing. And then after every family function that I saw Henry at, he always asked if there were any strange men wandering into my cellar. And I said, "No, that's you. That's your honor." So to Henry, his family, on behalf of the town, moment of silence for Henry Wheeler Jr. Thanks. Okay.
Can I just add that I've known Henry since his son and my daughter, one of my daughters, was in nursery school together. And it's so nice to see him riding through town in his little van and waving to me every single time. Such a very nice guy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He will definitely be missed. Henry was a fixture in this town. I mean, his dad was Uncle Henry, to those who knew him, our chief of police, and how can you forget his mom, Annie Ruth? So rest well. All right. So onto the announcements. I'll bring this over here, so I'm looking at you guys. The meetings of the Berlin Select Board are generally recorded for transmission on both the Berlin Cable Television Access Channel and YouTube. Your voice, image, and or phone number may be recorded. So first up on our agenda tonight is the approval of the September 20th meetings. Comments, questions on that?
I did wonder whether the board would like to add under the last set of bullets that what we will be looking at in the future would also be the entertainment policy.
Yes.
That was all I had.
All right. So can we get a motion on that?
Motion to approve with that addition.
Second.
All right.
Addition is being added as we speak.
Okay. Motion in a second, and Mary is typing away. I can see your head nodding. Stone eye.
Hawkins eye.
Keith, aye.
All right. Mrs. Nadowitz.
Yes.
Correspondence.
So the board has gotten a mix of correspondence. There is a letter writing campaign in support of 19 Carter and the value that it provides to our community. I personally want to thank all of the residents that have submitted letters and emails in support of 19 Carter. And during my TA report tonight, I would like to read a brief statement, just reiterating that, my recognition of 19 Carter as a valued asset in this community, as well as the board's executive and policy responsibility to balance the needs of all residents and establishments in our community. So I do want to express my thanks. And I'm sure as I'm sure the board does, for the letters that have been written in support of 19 Carter. And if anybody's listening now who's not listening later during my TA report, I just want to reiterate, this is not a noise bylaw proposal. So I'll mention that in my TA report as well. So it's the board's gotten several pieces of correspondence over the past week in support.
All right, thank you, Margaret, appreciate that. General public comment, we have a few folks in the audience tonight. Didn't know if there were any comments you'd like to share. If so, please raise your hand. All right, I got nothing. So we're a few minutes ahead. Can we bring Dennis up, please?
Just a reminder, through the chair, you have a 7:30 appointment for an alcohol license.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. All right, Mr. Farabee, lovely to see you. General, I
Likewise.
see you on Saturday as I go zooming through the dump.
Yep.
So,
Hi, Dennis. Long time no see.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard, but I took the tax collector test this year up at UMass, and I passed. So now I'm a certified tax collector and treasurer. It took a while to get the results because after we had our school, the group itself decided not to go live anymore, and they went back to remote. And you have to get together to judge the test because it's kind of a weird kind of test, the way you get points. And there's debate as far as getting credits and stuff. So they didn't get it done until about a week ago. They met somewhere and sat far apart. The big thing we've been working on is the VEDAR software installation. It's a great system, and we'll be doing our first real estate and personal property billing coming up as soon as everything falls into place with the steps we need before we can push the button. We did have a few bumps in the road. Part of it is the way VEDAR treats things versus Point. And we also had a little bit of difficulty taking Excel spreadsheets that the tax titles used to be kept on and converting them into VEDAR. So, we were out of balance with June on a handful of items. We have most of them figured out. And as she catches up with July and August, they should work themselves out. So we'll be in balance. One of the things we found is VEDAR out on the thread, because I went out and asked some folks and read some threads that came from the accounting or side of their group, is that they find VEDAR very difficult to follow their reports. And they are, they're not as nice looking as Point, but it just takes a little bit of time to learn how to look at them. So we did have one file error, passing the data to the deputy collector, and 30 or so people that were late to begin with that were a little upset they had to pay the $15 in interest received demand notices. We immediately fixed that in the computer and with Kelly and Ryan, and we sent out an apology letter to everybody the same day, being quite honest about what happened and, sorry for the fact that some people thought they were going to get arrested because they had a warrant. It really happened, but not nowadays. It happened in the old days. Another item, we met with the benefits consultant. She's on phase 2 of the 2-year project that we signed her up for, consulting. And we looked at FSAs. We received 3 quotes, and we got together with Margaret, myself, and her. And one of them clearly was something a little bit better than the other 2, either cost-wise or support. And we chose the one that ties into Blue Cross. And we'll be back to discuss it with you in the future. But, you know, pretty much employees can put pre-tax dollars into the payroll system, and a company we hire will track all of the paperwork that has to happen when people submit bills they receive for, you know, going to the doctor or what have you. There's a little risk, tiny risk involved, depending on when people leave and how it's done. You commit to an amount, but we put in so much per year. So we're going to review that. They're going to be coming out. We don't have a schedule yet, but before we meet with the ISC, we're going to go over the proposal from that particular vendor, probably remotely. We're also bouncing around other things. One of them is we're looking into, we do it all the time. Many towns don't print real estate and personal property anymore. It's just 3 days of nightmare. And we're going to compare the fees that we have now with the fees that we might get from a stuffing and printing company. The big one that's used is Globe Printing, which is part of the Boston Globe. And everyone seems to be happy with the price, the support. And they even do inserts, which is something I wanted to talk about. I'm putting an insert in this year with the tax bills. I know it's not going to be for motor vehicle excise, but a lot of people don't understand what the laws are. And they get very upset. And they get even more upset when you say, well, basically it's a state law. It's nothing Berlin has a control over. When things are due. The big one is the post office. We received something 2 days, last Friday, that was mailed August 10th. So we're advising taxpayers, don't use the mail. Get online and pay Unibank, or come into the place. We'd be glad to take your money at the window, or leave it in the green box in the front lobby. Don't, because if it doesn't come in, you're going to get fined. And the state law says we don't have to, and we shouldn't allow those kind of payments to come in. So I think in the old days, people use that as just a generic excuse, and it wasn't true, but now it unfortunately is true. And we're going to look into if there are any options for a retiree plan that makes it affordable to start out. But right now it's just in theory, but it's something that you may or may not hear from us after we do some research. We found out that there aren't just 2 communities like we thought. There's about 12 or so, maybe a couple more, that don't have it. A lot of them are tiny little towns. There is one very wealthy town on the North Shore, or South Shore, but that was the oddball. A big project we plan to finalize for next July 1st, if not sooner, is trying to get a handle on tracking vacation, sick pay, and personal time. Personal time is easy, you either have 1 day or 2 or 3, depending on your contract. But when you get into sick pay and you get into the rollover, July 1st, some departments get permission to roll it to the next year. When it puts it in the total, it gets confusing for even myself. I don't know what they took that year when they asked was from last year or this year. And we'll have a July 1st rollover that anything is left will roll over, and then it has to be used by August, the end of August, 1st of September. The problem with that is that week before, the supervisors have to know exactly whether they're going to let that department do it or not. So, you know, we might want to talk about having it happen to everybody or keep it the way it is. But that's one of the flies in the ointment we're going to have to work out with the Harpers. I got on the thread, and some people that have multiple unions, which we don't really have to worry about right now, are the ones that Harper's just couldn't figure out how to accurately and efficiently get it to work. But there are some people that it's working for. So we have a scheduled meeting towards the end of October to start the process with our rep. And we'll know better then what she thinks of the different rules we have, depending if you're a police person, you have a contract, or you just given X amount of weeks as part of a deal. You know, it's going to have to handle different situations. Tax titles, we have dodged the bullets on 3 we don't want properties. One was the flat penny. They paid their taxes when it got sold. The for rent sign is down. I know we're trying to track to see what's going to happen, but that was up for a while when Bridge Realty's partner bought it. It may have been sold since then again, but the for rent sign is down. All the equipment's been taken out of there. So if you tried to even put a restaurant in there, forget about it. You'd have to put it all back in again. And Tolman, they disappeared. You probably know the story on that one. They were bought by 2 local residents, and they're in the process of trying to see if they can, you know, clean it up and put a couple of houses on there, little cottages or some kind of retirement homes for them. And the old Central Street, the firehouse at the end, that was a problem. But he came in and paid off everything. And he was the one that the person wanted to bring Phil in and make it a place to drop off cars that he towed or whatever he was telling you folks. So he's not going to sell it to the other fellow. However, his septic is on the other person's property. So pretty interesting watching these things happen. 2 of them remain a concern. One of them you're aware of is the dam, the Bonazzoli thing. I haven't been able to get in touch with the owners now. It's absolutely an example of spend all the money fighting each other and there's nothing left. It's a huge family feud. And so I haven't heard any progress of that. And the other one is the old Spooky World. The taxes were paid by the person, I'm sorry, that bought the house part. But unfortunately, when we took the property, it was 1 parcel. And, you know, the assessor has a different version than our attorney about, you know, you have to take everything and hope the person who's paid this year, but had to pay a closing an amount that didn't quite cover it. Can we take that property and they're going to lose everything? So we'll probably have the attorney work on that one because it's going to be complicated. We may have to just cancel what we've done and start all over again. And if that's what we have to do, that's what we'll have to do. Make 1 taking instead of 1 on the big one, but we'll see how that rolls out. The 2 right now that I'm working with, and this is another example of family feud and nothing left, plus a little incident down there with the police. And that's the Oshiro Restaurant. And there's a trustee who doesn't want to be a trustee. None of them have a dime, and they're probably not going to get a loan on the property because the ones that want to do it, it hasn't been probated yet. So it's quite a mess. However, it's been in tax title for over a year, and it's one of the properties I want to start moving on because there will be some value. And they'll be racing against me because they had 1 offer, but once they found out what the zoning was down there, that particular offer, they backed out. So that's going to be a problem property. And I don't believe anyone's there right now. So, you know, fires and all that kind of stuff, it's something to keep an eye on. Tax collections for real estate and motor vehicle were equal to or a little bit higher than other towns. We were up in the upper 90%. The one fly in the wall was personal property because of the solar project. And I think there's something coming down the line that maybe Molly, you know, I just read it today in a couple of emails. But they only paid half of their $88,000 taxes. They did it as a move. Once they pay half, I have to stop trying to collect it, or the town has to. And they were in court, appellate court or abatement court, whatever it's called, trying to work things out with the town. River Bridge is all paid up except for I haven't seen any money come in on the balance of last year's mitigation. You're probably up to speed on that, and nothing for this year. So they have little tiny balances. We owed them a little bit of money for overpayment on one account, and we just kept it, made it out to the town of Berlin legally, and paid off something they were past due and recovered a little bit of that amount, $50, $60. There is an insert, as I mentioned. One of the back of the page, the highway asked if they could put the winter snow plow rules, but there is space there if anyone has something important to say, because these bills are only one-sided, unlike the ones we had before. So everything we probably want to say that used to be on the back, we're not going to print on the back of the bills, but it's all taken care of by Vadar on the front of it. So there's things that we used like to say on our insert that we don't have to now. So if there's anything, let me know. And I mentioned earlier, but there are a lot of new folks in town and they don't know, and some don't care what the rules are. So we're working on some PowerPoint presentations once, we can get to the website that explain the rules from the state, how your car is valued and all that. But most of the people that end up going over to Kelly and Ryan and being collected are kids. Whether they're college kids that can't afford it, I don't know. But they're typically young people, and mom and dad usually come in to pay it off. And it about doubles what you owe. So they learn a harsh lesson in life that $50 bill is now $100 to take the mark off your account. They can't get a license, they can't register anything. And I think that's it. One of the issues that have come up in the past, and we decided to put it off a little bit because there's so much going on, is to go back to biweekly payroll. And there's pros and cons. How you set it up may affect high paid people a little bit different than low paid. You go 2 weeks without pay, you're supposed to put a little aside. Does that pay in the third week? Or do we pay 1 week ahead, which June and I can both tell you is a nightmare because things change in that second week. And what wasn't sick pay becomes sick pay. And it's just a lot of work. So I talked to the lady at the school. They've been doing that for a long time. And the week they do the payroll, it's don't ask me to do anything else kind of a situation for a few days. So that's about it. Lots going on, and we're hanging in there.
Dennis, I had one question, which I'm sure is at the top of everyone's mind, patiently waiting by the mailbox. When are the tax bills going out?
That's up to you guys, the assessors.
Never.
And
I vote never. Second, approved, passed.
right now, it's not going to happen right away, even when everything's put in place, because we still have to get people paid for the workout program. And Molly will be finishing up abatements and exemptions and stuff that may be done a little bit different with Vadar than with Point. So my answer is you'll know when you get it. We're shooting for as early as we can. And that's one of the negatives, by the way, to have some outside vendor print. Some did it right away. Some took up to a week before they could print them and get them out the door. So, that's one of the things we have to keep an eye on. So that's my best answer for when they're going out.
Oh,
No, that's
sorry,
fine.
you're thinking mid-October then?
Right now, it's feeling like that. But I don't know if Margaret knows any more about it on the other side with the
I
assessment.
ask, because if we're looking at an early November town meeting, mentioning the town meeting dates, time and place as either an insert or part of the bill might be a great sense of publicity to make sure people just know about the town meeting that we're talking
Yep.
about.
We've discussed that, and also including an insert about the many exemptions and abatements the town offers, just to make sure that residents are aware of what they could apply for. So, and Dennis, I would say that, I think we're still looking at a mid-October mailing date at this point. If anything, major changes, we'll let you know.
Yep,
And
that's
they're due 30 days after we mail them. Correct?
Mhm, mhm.
correct. And then
And
people.
do we control that 30 days?
The only,
Is that a
The
the
law.
the
It's
law-
from
Because
date
what
of-
I'm
yeah, the
worried
law.
about, is
Law.
exactly what Dennis just said, which is about the post office. So we mail it on October 10th, due November 10th.
Uh-huh.
People get it in their mailbox November 3rd and only have a week to come up with the money to turn it around. or even
Dennis
know that
has
it's even
something to
out there.
say about that.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Mm.
In our office, unfortunately, we get to send it back and we don't accept the payment for motor vehicle because you can't make partial
Oh.
payments. If you have a PO box, it seems to get delivered a little bit quicker. So I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, is this one of those things that we start working with our state representatives? Because I think this at no real extra service to government is really causing a lot of stress on a lot of people's part on something they can't control. If we mail it on October 10th, they don't get the bill to November 7th, and that day they put it in the mail, but you don't get it till November 10th. They've turned it around. The taxpayers turned it around in 24 hours, and yet they're still paying a late fee. That just
Correct.
doesn't feel fair or right. And so what can we do to provide some better service on that?
I think,
change-
as far as trying to control the postal service, that's going to be a pretty monumental challenge. But
Right.
what we can do, what we do have control over, is getting the word out. That's what we can do. We could use every possible venue to get the word out. The tax bills have been mailed, the date they're due. We'll just try to use every opportunity to do that.
I think we could also work with our legislators to say if it is postmarked by the due date, we still
Mm.
accept it without late fee.
Right, which we
Because
can't
that-
right now.
Which we
That
can't
was-
right now. And so like you just said, August 10th, someone mailed it, 6 weeks ago, probably from the town itself, and it still didn't get here in time. And they're being penalized and horribly inconvenienced. And some of these people don't have that extra $15 or $20.
Right.
And I don't feel it's right to charge them. And I know it's state law that's saying we can't. But
Well,
maybe we
the
start
other-
talking about that postmarked by.
The other law that parallels that is the state also says failure to get a tax bill, a taxpayer should know when it's coming. And so you'd have to kind of change that too. Now I can get you copies of the rules if you want to
No,
start.
I totally believe the rules are there. It's,
Yeah.
how do we still sort of do that customer service, get the money sort of in a decent time frame, but not penalize for people for things
So-
that's beyond their control?
So
Right.
provide whatever flexibility we can within the law.
Yep.
Right.
And I think work with our legislators when the law is not allowing us the flexibility we think we need.
Because it's happening in other towns, it's not just us, so.
The
maybe
post office is not
different-
picking on the town of Berlin. This is a
Right.
national problem.
Right. But anyhow, that's my report.
Awesome. Chris, do you have anything? We're coming up almost on 7:30.
No, I think I'm good. It was a lot of information, but if I think of anything, Dennis, I'll email you.
Excellent.
Thank you,
Okay.
Dennis, for all you and your department does. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
We give you a
Thanks
hard
for
time,
having
but
me.
we appreciate you. All right.
Thank you for
All right.
coming tonight, Dennis.
Thanks, Dennis.
Dennis.
All right. Well, Gabe and I have 7:30. We are right on time for our appointment for the one-day special beer wine sales service consumption license. Applicant proposed license holder. That was a mouthful. Karen Windsor, Executive Director, nonprofit group Foster Parents Limited of Rockland, Mass Division, Mass Corporation Division 0434582267. And there's Karen. Hello, Karen, welcome. Nice. So Karen, I understand you have a fundraiser coming up this week? Is this week
Yes.
October 2nd? Yep.
Yes, it sure
From
is.
noon to 6. Okay. Do you want to tell us all that are here a little bit about it?
Well, we normally throw a fall fundraiser. My organization has done this for years. This year it's a little different though, because we did suffer a devastating fire on April 1st and lost about a third of our sanctuary and a third of our birds. And so it's a bit of a fundraiser and memorial event, which is going to be kind of difficult for a lot of us, but we'll get through it. It's a good bunch of people. These people have supported my organization for years and years, and actually having this event in Massachusetts is kind of fortuitous for some people. We have a lot of supporters in Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, and usually when we have our event in Rhode Island, it's a little off the beaten track for a lot of people. So a lot of people are kind of happy that we're in Mass this year.
All right. So were there any issues or concerns that came in from any of that note? Mary's shaking her head. Okay. All right. Chris Scott, any questions?
Oh, it sounds like a good organization. And yeah, I'm all fine.
Agreed.
All right.
Sounds like a good time too.
Mhm. So no questions, no issues. Their motion on the floor to approve the one-day special beer wine license.
So move.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. I'll start. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
There you go, Karen. You are all approved. And thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you
the
very
work
much.
that
I
your group
appreciate
does.
it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Martha, is
Thank
there anything
you.
else that we
Best of
need?
luck.
Be good.
For Karen? No,
Yeah.
thank you for your patience, Karen.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Karen.
much.
Appreciate
Have a
you
good
being
night.
here. You too. Bye-bye. All right, Mrs. Nadowitz, you back up. Your administrator report.
Okay, so I want to start with a statement that I mentioned regarding 19 Carter and trying to find a resolution for residents' concerns, and the desire of many to maintain a cultural center in our village center. So on August 25th, a small group facilitated discussion was held at the 1870 Town Hall with representatives of 19 Carter, neighbors who had expressed concerns about the noise level, frequency, traffic, and parking issues related to 19 Carter's summer concert series, and Chris Keefe and me for the town. I recognize that the intent and purpose, it was actually I found it to be a very productive discussion where residents were able to voice their concerns. We talked about some possibilities for the future to help mitigate those concerns and actually create partnerships or forge partnerships between the town and 19 Carter. So I recognize that the intent and purpose of 19 Carter is to serve as a community center for all. This has been particularly important since the beginning of the COVID pandemic to address social isolation issues. However, I also believe that the town, through its select board, must recognize and honor its duty to all residents and establishments in the town of Berlin for the common benefit of all. The town select board has issued and continues to issue entertainment licenses to establishments, but the issuance of these licenses hasn't historically been guided by established policies and procedures. The select board is the chief executive and policy body of the town of Berlin. I have proposed to the board and am working on developing reasonable, fair and equitable entertainment license policies and procedures, not a noise bylaw, that will be meant to balance all of the following: the desire of 19 Carter to continue to host occasional music performances, the desire of many residents to attend them, the need to respect the rights of our residents to have peace and enjoyment on their own properties, a recognition that the town's village center is also the primary cultural center of our community, and the need for the town to effectively manage public safety, noise, and other matters associated with entertainment. I recognize the value of 19 Carter to our community, and I will endeavor to work with the select board to find a resolution that is beneficial for all. Now, I do hope that that mitigates some of the concerns of the residents who do enjoy attending those music series. My intent is by no means to stop the music. My intent is to try to help us manage the entertainment so that it can mitigate the concerns of the residents who have expressed them, and allow 19 Carter to continue to host performances in a responsible manner that respects the neighbors. So I just wanted to make that clear. Personnel, we are conducting interviews this week for highway laborer driver. Actually, those just concluded today. Temporary conservation agent, that'll conclude tomorrow, and public safety administrative assistant, that will conclude on Thursday. For the police chief search, it is extremely important, in my opinion, to maintain the integrity of the hiring process for the town's top law enforcement official. So therefore, I am going to be seeking an outside expert consultant to assist the town with the interview process, as well as an assessment center, maybe in-basket exercises, and a thorough background check for the individual determined to be the top-ranked candidate. So we will begin with resume screening. Today was the deadline to submit resumes, and we have about 16 resumes that have been received. Well, actually, we may have a few more than that by now. So we're going to be working on that. The Council on Aging Director, I've received confirmation from the MMA, who is working closely with the U.S. Treasury representatives on ARPA funding. I've received confirmation from MMA that our ARPA funding can be used to fund the expansion of the Council on Aging Director's duties beginning this fiscal year to provide increased social service supports and outreach to seniors and other residents alike. So I plan to pursue this as a means by which our residents most in need can receive town support through expanded hours that would be provided by Victoria. This is obviously going to require the job description to be addressed to show an expansion of those duties, at least temporarily through FY22. And with clarity as to what services will be provided. As you know, Victoria is a licensed social worker and has the capacity to provide some much needed services in town. So I'm going to be pursuing that. Veteran Services Officer, we did receive notice of resignation from Jim Cabral, our long-term Veteran Services Officer. Many thanks to Jim for his years of service here. The Veterans Department of Veteran Services is requiring that he step back from the position due to their complex regulations that govern his position. So the Hudson's Veteran Services Officer has expressed an interest in backfilling for Jim at the same rate of pay and same hours that Jim provided. I had a chance to meet him last week, a very, very cordial person. I have, and I notified the personnel committee that I would go ahead and post the job ad for the requisite 10 days that we have here. So that is posted until October 2nd. And then this will give us a chance to see if we receive any additional resumes for the position, and I'll be back to the board to make a recommendation on appointment. Because this is a department head position, this is going to be a select board appointment when the time comes, and I will ask the top ranked candidate to come to the board's meeting. I don't know that it's going to require an interview, but you might want to have a discussion with the Veteran Services Officer. We have lost our only Council on Aging van driver to a resignation, but Victoria is working hard. She has interviewed another person to take on those responsibilities, and this is my call. If anyone is interested in helping to drive the Council on Aging van periodically, we are in need of drivers, and please inquire with Victoria in the Council on Aging if you're interested in doing that.
And Margaret, that does not require a CDL, does it?
No, it does not. Nope,
Okay.
It does not. I completed the draft of the contract for the Bullet House Sill work. It is in the hands of the vendor, and it's awaiting execution subject to receipt of the required documentation from the vendor. There's Boylston Regional School District. The budget letter will be reviewed, I believe, by the Finance Committee next Wednesday night, after which time it'll come back to the board for your following meeting to finalize the letter. As you know, the Susan Henry, our own Susan Henry, is the current school committee chair. She has offered to start periodically meeting with the board for updates beginning this November 15th. So the board can expect a visit from the school committee through Chair Susan Henry on November 15th. I also received a call today from the district's Director of Administration and Finance, seeing if we could tentatively set a date for the school district administration and town representatives meeting. Every year we have a meeting just with the school district's administration to talk about expectations for the coming year. So we're trying to set up a meeting before the end of October for that. And finally, just a couple of announcements. There's going to be a family entertainment event this Friday at Berlin Memorial School Gym from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Notice or the flyer has been posted on our website and Facebook. This is going to be a fun event for everybody. There's going to be music and magic and juggling, and it should be fun. It is a free event for all Berlin residents. Principal Campbell has also emailed the flyer to Berlin Memorial School and to Honto students' families in his weekly email. Berlin Memorial School, in partnership with the Neshoba Associated Boards of Health, is going to be hosting the annual flu clinic this year on Thursday, October 7th, from 3:30 to 6:30 p.m. And that is usually held in the cafeteria at Berlin Memorial School. So it's going to be at Berlin Memorial School. Mark your calendars for your flu shot, October 7th, 3:30 to 6:30 p.m.
Margaret, do you know if the COA van drives on Saturday?
I don't believe it does currently, but if there were drivers, it's possible that it could. I don't believe it does currently. I don't believe there's availability of drivers currently. We don't have a driver currently yet.
All right.
And I want to thank Ginny. I want to thank Ginny for her years of service as the Council on Aging van driver as well. So.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ginny,
Margaret,
for all that you did.
Margaret, can you tell me how many years Jim Cabral was with us?
Mary could do that, I'm sure. I can't tell you, but
You,
I'm
you
sure
can
Mary
let
could
me
look it up.
know. I was just curious. It's as
Yeah.
long as I can remember, he's been there. So
Yeah.
I know at least
Same
8.
here.
That's how long my dad's been gone, and he helped with the plaque for my dad. So
Yeah, such a pleasure to work with. He's just a nice person.
Mhm.
yeah,
okay,
Peg, Mary has her hand up.
she's looking.
September 26, 2011.
Wow.
10 years. Wow.
Yep.
Oh, thanks, Jim. Appreciate you. All right. Any other questions for Margaret on her TA report? All right, I gotta know. All right, so moving down into old business. The Mabel Felton Marble Scholarship Determination, continuation from last week's discussion. I saw something come in, correct?
Yep. Sylvia and Judith, Sylvia's the benefactor, they have approved the select board deferring the scholarship award for scholarship recipient Lindsay Kunowicz. So thank you, Mary, for working on this. Mary has prepared a letter from the select board to Lindsay and Susan regarding the extension.
Awesome. And there are other changes. Will we discuss those next year? Was it it's only gonna go to one person next year? Did I read that or am I making that up?
No, it sounded like that was their choice, that they would like it to only go to one person next year.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Please, when you speak with them, please pass along our thanks to those. They didn't have to, but understand the needs and the circumstances. So again, town of Berlin folk, appreciate all that you do. All right, moving down to the review of the draft fraud prevention policy update.
This is your second reading, or actually your first reading. Last week was just the intro.
Yep.
So I don't know if the board is actually ready to approve the amendments tonight, or if you would prefer to wait one more week and submit any comments or suggestions to me before you meet on October 4th, next week.
I mean, I read through it. I didn't have any comments. I didn't know if Scott, Chris, you had a chance to go through it.
Scott, you're muted.
I'm muted because I coughed. I've read through it and it's totally fine by me.
And I agree. I didn't see anything glaring, so
Okay, good.
I'd be happy to make a motion if that's what you'd like to do.
Absolutely.
Okay. Motion to approve the fraud prevention policy.
I will second.
Excellent. Thank you for the review of the document. I'll start. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
There you go, Margaret. Add that
Thank
to
you
your
very
list
much.
of
And
policies.
Could I just add, it's along these lines. The DLS technical management review that's been conducted for our financial management procedures should be ready within 2 weeks. I've spoken with the person from DLS again. It's going to be loaded with all kinds of good information. They will have additional policy recommendations for us, as well as other general recommendations. So I'm really looking forward to receiving that and sharing it with the board and FinCom.
Awesome. Thank you, Margaret.
Mhm.
All right, we are down to the warrant close today, correct? At 5:30. So now we will take a look at the proposed articles for our November 8th, 2021, fall 2021 special town meeting. Also
So
in our folder.
Did you want me to kind of walk you through these one at a time? Again, this is a preliminary
Yeah.
draft of the warrant. There are certainly changes to be made. And I have not even numbered the articles yet because I'd like to at least give the board a chance to determine how you'd like to present the articles. The first would be an amendment to Article 2 of the general bylaws, town meetings, the warrants, and town reports. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but this does propose some amendments inside of sections 2, 3, and 12 of Article 2 to allow for a change in the way the town report is delivered to voting residents. So it essentially says that the digital copy of the annual report will be made available on the Berlin website. Hard copies will be made available at town offices, Berlin Public Library, and at the annual town meeting. And of course, if for any reason a town report needs to be mailed, that is something that we could do upon request, but I wasn't inclined to include that in the bylaw itself. It's something that we would work on with people.
We can always go further than the bylaw says. Like if we still wanted to mail it to every household in town, we could still do that.
Yes, exactly.
It's just that right now we can't do other directions, especially with a lot of new people moving in and the cost of the stuff going up, that just doesn't seem as practical as it used to be.
Right.
And your changes also separate the town reports from the warrant articles for town meeting.
It does. It does. So that it would be the mailing of the warrant along with the finance committee's report and recommended budget for the ensuing year that would be mailed. That is it. So it would really, I think would really cut down on mailing costs just to have those things mailed. The next proposed article is okay. The next proposed article is not, it doesn't include wholesale changes to Article 8 of the general bylaws, but it does include amendments to Section 6 of Article 8, which is specifically employee benefits holidays. There are two changes here. One is substantive, one is a correction. This is the addition of the Juneteenth holiday, which became a federal holiday in 2021. And it also adds the suffix junior to Martin Luther King's name, which is his real name. So I just thought I'd make that change as we worked on this. I have sent this off to the Personnel Committee. The Personnel Committee hasn't yet discussed it. Personnel Committee is in the middle of reviewing personnel policies and procedures. And there are going to have to be additional changes to the personnel bylaws subsequent to the review and approval of the updated policies and procedures. But this is one that needs to be effective before June. Next spring would be too late. We wouldn't have it in place. The next one is earth removal and import. And I've not gotten very far on this as far as a combined bylaw. or the rescission of one or both of the existing bylaws. But I have put it as a placeholder in case I am able to get to this and make a comprehensive proposal. Town Council Amy Questle had attempted a combined bylaw a few years ago, I believe, and, oh, I'm sorry. And I have not had a chance to go through that along with the existing bylaws to compare them all.
I mean, do you think maybe it might be a good idea not to put that on the warrant, only because we might want to get feedback and it might take time and
Mhm, mhm.
you know,
This one might have to wait till spring, to be perfectly honest. I just don't know where I'd be able to find the time looking through. These are multiple page bylaws, both of them.
I agree that I think even
Yeah.
at this point, we might say that this is just, there's just not the time right now to do this one and let this one just go until spring.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I've reached out to the Earthworks Board multiple times, and I know that they had a resignation not too long ago, so yeah, I'm okay with this one coming off until May.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right, next one. River Bridge. So as you know, Chris and I and our small working group have been meeting with the principals of River Bridge regarding potential modifications to the development agreement. Our proposals for modifications at this point only really extend to extension of a few deadlines that are in the existing development agreement. So we had proposed existing the deadline for completion of infrastructure construction for the pedestrian bridge, sidewalk connections and upgrades to December 11th, 2022. Current date is December 11th, 2021. Construction cannot be completed by this December. Complete the design and engineering for bridge reconstruction, deck widening over North Brook by December 11th, 2023, and complete the bridge reconstruction by December 11th, 2024. That was our proposal. The Sennies have asked that they would like to trade some of the infrastructure work for the town's consideration. This is in the future. This is not presented at this town meeting, but to trade some of the infrastructure work with a further option for the town to acquire an additional portion of the River Run parcel. Now, the town's ability to exercise its right to purchase that portion for $1, the deadline was December 11th, 2021, just as the infrastructure construction was. So that is also proposed in this bylaw to extend that deadline. I think he's proposed, I think it's proposed to be extended, 4 years here.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we'd like to move a little more quickly than that, but to be allowed 4 years is helpful. We have not yet come to terms on a payment plan for the transitional public safety mitigation payments, but we have discussed them with respect to memorializing them. And then that really encapsulates everything that we discussed. We are having town council review the language in this warrant article, edit or comment and edit as necessary. The next are, do you have any questions on that particular one? I tried to
If we
explain it.
memorialize a payment plan, we should make sure there is penalties and interest included for late payments or mispayments, because that's one of the issues we seem to have now is there's not sort of teeth if they happen not to do it.
Not enforceable, you're right.
So Margaret, they're saying that they want to forego, maybe I didn't hear or understand. So they want to forego putting in the bridge, putting in this pedestrian sidewalk.
No. You're right. I didn't explain fully. I think the bridge deck widening piece and the South and Pleasant Street intersection work, they
By
were
the
going to
post
be
office.
responsible in the development agreement for doing that work as well. So I think they were just looking at different parts of that. The sidewalks, a pedestrian bridge as well, because that's a very difficult thing along with the bridge deck widening. However, the connecting sidewalks are really important, and we discussed that as a public safety matter that needs to move forward. So I do believe they understand the importance of continuing to do that. That is not something they would like to work with us on in exchange for the River Run parcel. That's my understanding anyway. Chris, is that yours as well?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions after reading through that third modification, but I can talk to you about it later. if you'd
Okay.
like. Okay.
All right.
I have a silly question. I know no questions are silly, just the person who asks. So if they're offering up another parcel of land, what would we do with it? Turn it into conservation
Well,
land?
it's
Sell
interesting.
it?
No. Well, I shouldn't say that. The town could do anything it wants with it. However,
It
the
depends on
additional
probably
parcel
what-
of,
It just depends on what part of that land we would get. I mean,
yes.
there's only
Yes.
certain things you could do with it.
One of the pieces on the, I want to say west side of it, I'm not sure if it's west, but if you look, as you're looking at a map, it's on the west of the River Run parcel is zoned residential agricultural. So that would have to be for housing. I'm sure the town could protect it as well if it chose to. But the other parcel that they're now proposing is actually commercial. It is in the limited business district, which happens to be one of those districts that allows recreational marijuana facilities. So it is actually in the limited business district, and it would be available for commercial development. So
So it's going to take some thought.
it is.
to-
Not only that, yeah,
It's something we want to do.
there have been preliminary plans drawn up, but the parcel itself has not been subdivided yet. So it hasn't gone to the planning board yet. This is really just to extend the deadline for us to exercise our option to purchase it so that we can potentially look into that stuff.
Right, and that really on the town meeting now is no discussion of forgiving any sort of
No.
requirements they have in exchange for extra land. And it's just
It
giving
is-
more time to allow us to potentially come up with some agreements.
That is exactly right.
Because I share some concerns that I don't think they'd be offering up land if they were finding great value for it.
Right.
And I think the improvements of the intersections at South and Surrey Hill and the bridge are important things that we need to have done in town. Maybe not this second, but we'll have problems in the long run if we don't address it.
Mhm.
And I'd be concerned about any type of, revenue if Berlin just sits on the land, what is the lost money? That the town isn't getting, with that. So, I
Yeah.
definitely could see lots of discussion on this.
Yeah, so again, I just want to be crystal clear. Just like Scott said, this is to extend deadlines only. We had a bunch of deadlines coming up December 11th. This will extend those.
Okay,
Okay.
appreciate
The
it.
next one is the request to authorize the select board to petition the general court for special legislation, adding for 2 additional section 15 all alcohol licenses. I've asked town council to review this as well and provide a recommendation on the form of the motion itself. As far as I think the preference is to ask for general section 15 all alcohol licenses that could be applicable anywhere in town where such establishments are allowed. There had also been previous discussion about restricting it to the River Bridge. What is it? The commercial village district. But I think the preference is to make them available for any applicant who is qualified and able to apply. Right now. By the way, I think, there are other means to encourage economic development, but by adding the 2 additional licenses, the board may or may not get applications in, and it is one small way to promote economic development, whether at River Bridge or otherwise. Okay, Cemetery Commission regulations. It appears a Cemetery Commission has some regulations they would like the town to accept in accordance with Chapter 114, Section 23 of the Mass General Laws. This article is certainly not in final form because the regulations will have to be made available for public viewing, whether it's at the town clerk's office or not. This is a start at the article. Special article closeout. We do not have, I don't have confirmation yet of any articles the accountant would like to close out. We do know that there are some departments that have certified significant balances in their capital, particularly the library, with remaining funds from the library septic project that is now closed out, and the library well. There was a sum of money appropriated a few years ago for the well, and it's been determined that the well is not, does not have to be replaced. So they're not going to touch the well. So we'll see if, I have to check with June to see if she wants to put me in.
That sounds like a good idea, though. I mean, closing those out.
Yeah, it does. It does, because the funds could be applied to another capital project. So fiscal year 2022 supplemental capital budget. The capital planning committee is going to be meeting on Tuesday, October 5th to go over these specific items that are shown in this article. And I need to note that it is entirely possible that the additional funding required for the town office rooftop air handler and possibly even the old fire station rubber membrane roof replacement could potentially be funded from ARPA funds, as could a portion of the ambulance replacement. The only item in here that is not new, it's coming back, is the highway hot top. This amount, you'll recall in spring, the town appropriated amount of money for hot top. This $70,000 was actually appropriated at the 2019 annual town meeting, but there was a sunset clause imposed and that has expired. So that has to be voted again in order to supplement the Chapter 90 funds.
Margaret, is that 70,000, is that the money to pave the cemeteries?
No. The $70,000 is to supplement Chapter 90 funds for public ways. Because the cost of repaving roads is so incredibly expensive, Chapter 90 wouldn't go very far. So we're trying to programmatically fund supplemental funds for that. Community Preservation Act proposed projects. I drafted this before the draft articles came in today. So you have received the draft articles and I will be plugging those in to this draft town meeting warrant, but you have one for, unfortunately, I received it and didn't even have time to read the exact proposals, but you would have two proposals for historic preservation, one for open space, and two, I believe, for recreation, which is also from the open space reserve. So
and then be sent to us again, because I don't think I got them.
Okay.
They just arrived today.
Yeah.
Chris,
And
I
I couldn't
replied
read them
to
on
an
my cell phone.
email.
I had to like go to my computer to actually start reading them.
Okay.
Was
Yeah,
it-
I haven't even had a chance.
I got one without attachments.
Yeah, I thought I might have forwarded that again. Could be in my draft folder, but there's also, Mary has uploaded it to a Google Drive folder as well. So check that out. It's in there too. So.
What's it called?
I just forwarded it now. So
Okay.
you're all gonna have it
Okay.
in email as an attachment.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Mary.
It's actually in tonight's agenda folder, Chris, under special town meeting draft articles or something. It's yeah. So it'll be in a subfolder for tonight under special town meeting, I believe.
Okay.
Okay. I don't believe this next article is going to be necessary, but I did not want to miss the deadline for inserting an article. This would be to ask for any budget line appropriation transfers. I was thinking personnel at the time when I inserted this, in case any funds need to be moved from part-time to full-time wages or vice versa, for any kind of personnel changes. I don't believe it's going to have to stay. The next article, I am going to be actually, the next article is the exception of Mass General Law, Chapter 32, Section 4(2)B. So this essentially extends, I have more inquiries to do with the Worcester Regional Retirement System, but this essentially extends the statutory five-year cap on creditable service for on-call, previous on-call firefighters and part-time police officers who are employed by the town. This would allow them to buy additional or receive additional creditable service for the time they spent as on-call firefighters or reserve or permanent intermittent police officers. It's my understanding, having done this in another town, that this is cost neutral for the town. All it is doing is adding creditable service to the employees themselves. However, I know that only a handful of towns, in my case, we did it when I was in Rutland, only a handful of towns have done this, and I want to speak with the executive director at Worcester Regional Retirement to assure that that's the case. The next, and this was proposed by fire and police chiefs. Public Safety Special Purpose Stabilization Fund. And I'm almost afraid to bring this up, Scott. I know where you stand on these things. So let me just please explain. So there are a couple of things here. First of all, DOR, back before I got here, DOR weighed in on public safety mitigation funds and where they should be kept, or where they would recommend that they be kept once they are received. They had recommended that they should be going into a stabilization fund or a special stabilization fund. And because these are essentially earmarked funds under the commercial development agreements, they cannot go into the general stabilization fund and be segregated in there. So that is one piece of this. The next piece is that hold on, I'm sorry, I'm confusing myself here. Sorry, I'm just drawing a blank here. Oh, yes. We have had, the town has historically received the funds sometimes immediately prior to town meeting, and then has appropriated the funds. The goal here, in my opinion, I think a part of the goal here is to actually pre-fund this stabilization fund so that we're not spending the funds as soon as we receive them, essentially creating warrant articles that would pay for these items, risking not having received the funds. We did really, really well this past year in not spending out all of our public safety mitigation funds. We actually have over $300,000 balance in those. And, my proposal would be here to take those remaining funds, put them in this stabilization fund, and make them available for appropriation in the spring. So whatever we have in there available for appropriation, we could spend from. If there's a risk that we're not going to, and we know where some of these public safety mitigation funds are trending, and the risk involved with them, at least we would be able to have an established fund from which to draw, to fund the projects proposed to be funded from them. The last thing I put in here, but I understand it can't work the way I've proposed in this article, is that we have 4 consecutive years that the town is going to potentially be on the hook for police bridge training, for police reform. If we were to use ARPA funds, I used the words coronavirus, local fiscal recovery funds, that's part of ARPA. If we were to use our ARPA funds and commit those in some way to the stabilization fund, we could have that reserve available for 4 consecutive years, and it's 4 consecutive years only. This is a rollout. This is not going to be ongoing forever and ever in the operating budget. But what we could do is we could pre-fund that, and each fiscal year from here on out, we could take a portion of those funds that are going to be required for the Bridge Academy training and apply those funds to this. However, I am aware, I've learned that we cannot put those funds directly into stabilization. That's going to be prohibited under the Treasury's final rule. So what we would need to do is actually fund the budget lines with these funds, and we could take, is that right? With these funds for now, for as long as we're able to access them, and we could put free cash instead into the Public Safety Mitigation Fund for those future years that we're going to be responsible for Bridge Academy training. I hope that made some sense, but I just want the board to consider it. I know that I've advocated for this, and Scott, I know that you have concerns about adding another account that the accountant has to track. However, she is already tracking these and not in a segregated fund. She's actually having to treat these somewhat as receipts reserved for appropriation, which
so this would mean that the tracking of these, that what we currently call the Highland Commons Public Safety Fund, that the need for tracking that would go away, and this would just replace it and make it more clear what it is for.
It would make it more clear. We could potentially put those funds directly into it without further appropriation. So those funds could automatically be deposited into here. I think June is here, and I don't know if you want to speak with her about it, but I think
the stabilization fund is only for capital. We currently use that funding for operations as well. And so that would prohibit us from using those funds for operations?
it would prohibit the fund. June could probably speak to the general stabilization fund. But because of the development, it's because of the development agreement earmarks. It's because of the specificity in those development agreements that's going to prevent us from putting it in the general.
The developments say that we have to use it for public safety. It does not say we have to use it for public safety capital. And so
it does not. You're right. You're right.
Is if we start taking these funds and putting directly into the stabilization fund and no longer having to be tracking a public safety fund separately, that we're going to lose the ability and lose the flexibility to be able to use this for either operations or for capital. And
that's a great point.
Some of these funds were going to offset the cost of having extra police and extra fire the town has to have, because we want to be able to service the Highland Commons Mall at a level that it deserves to be supported.
That's an excellent point. And in fact, we have been using a portion of the public safety mitigation funds toward operating costs toward operating costs for personnel. So you bring up a very valid point, and we could expand this to allow for that. I don't know that June wants to.
No, I'm here. I did. You guys kind of like worked it out, I thought.
How'd we do, June?
I think you did fine. I just need to stress that adding a new account isn't a big deal. Believe it or not, there's tons more time involved in doing grants than it is something like this, because this would be just a once a year thing.
Yeah, I mean, again, my worry is that we end up with 15 of these and no one remembers all of them. And town meeting gets confusing when we pass a motion that says it's $50 out of Fund A and $25 out of Fund B and $37 out of Fund C. Oh, no, we can't use Fund D this year because it has too little money and the restrictions we put on Fund D. Yeah. And like, we need to do something for the town. The town needs to buy a new fire truck. And between this various restrictions on the 15 different funds, we can't do it, even though we have $6 million sitting around doing nothing for us.
I understand those concerns as well, but I do believe that it's fiscally responsible to actually create a segregated fund for this purpose rather than receiving the funds and spending them immediately. I think,
and you will find that I am less opposed to this one than some of the previous ones, because in my brain, it is taking away our already existing fund and sort of putting some more structure around it. And so if we're getting rid of something called the Highland Common Public Safety Fund and we're replacing it with this, then we're not adding another fund to the town, and we're not making something more complicated and have another pool of money that we can forget about.
All right, so I suggest that we can expand the allowable funding purposes in here, and to make sure that we don't overly restrict ourselves.
And I think pre-funding is a good idea with money that we already have in that fund that in some respects we're trying to make go away and replace with this.
Okay. All right. So we can work on that one. And
I might have said something wrong since June has raised her hand. I might have said something wrong.
No, not anything wrong. It's just that currently where the the funds are, is I have them in receipts reserved for appropriation, but technically speaking, there is no statute for that. So technically for the stabilization fund, it's a better placement for it. Not totally wrong either way, but if they start to crack down on some of the funds being where they are, there is no statute that says we can keep this in the receipts reserve.
Yeah.
So that's the only
Yeah.
other comment. That's all.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, we'll work on, thank you, June, and we'll work on that article.
So Margaret, I have a question, and June, don't go away. In regard to the ambulance money, it said that chief stated the retirement, the replacement cost will utilize funds generated entirely by ambulance transport fees. What do we have now for that? And here's the age-old question, not that it probably won't happen. What happens if we don't have the ambulance transport fees to pay for this $300,000 ambulance?
Great question, Peg, and I'm sure June can answer it more specifically, but as of our Springtown meeting, we had, well, after our Springtown meeting, we had, I believe we had more than $300,000 in there. I don't know what the current balance is. June would be able to better answer that.
So, but the chief's last report showed that we're generating about 200,000 a year now in that fund.
And is he, because I know previously that he was looking at using either some of the money or on-call money to support some other things. I mean, I just want to be sure that if he's saying that X fund is going to buy an ambulance, that it's going to buy the ambulance and not all of a sudden, whoops, I'm $80,000 short. Could you loan me the money? That's all. Okay.
I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I can get them for you.
No worries.
Okay, no, I'll get them for you for tomorrow. I just have to pull some of the reports together.
No, and that's,
to get
no, June, I don't need them. It was just, and
Well, no,
thank you.
because this is a concern for me too, because I always kind of felt that it would be nice to have a little bit of money there just in
Yeah.
case,
Yep.
for whatever reason, things don't come through as we hope they do, just to
Correct.
have at least 1 year's worth of money in there. So I will get
Yeah,
that
and
for you.
Because we do
Yeah,
use some of that money to offset the fire department budget.
exactly,
Correct.
and we want to be
Correct.
sure that we retain that ability as well. Yeah.
Before it was that we only had one ambulance, and now that we have two,
Yeah.
purchasing new ones from that fund in entirety, I just don't know how sustainable that is. I mean, we might be able to do it right at the moment, but next time we may not be able to, depending on, a lot of things, but.
Yeah,
get
that's
to the
a
numbers.
good point. Capital Planning Committee, in their process for this fiscal year, developed a capital replacement schedule for the two ambulances that would put them on a 10-year replacement schedule. This one was scheduled to be replaced in the by appropriation in the spring of next year, at next year's spring town meeting. But chief has reported mechanical problems with the ambulance and feels that it would be in the town's interest to appropriate the funds now and start building the ambulance now. It's going to be a period of months before we would get the ambulance in. So Capital Planning Committee will be looking at all of these on next Tuesday night. I hope that I did not miss anything. I don't believe I did.
Well, so they're not on the one, but originally we had talked about a warrant article to remove obsolete revolving funds from the table. There was some
We
cleanup
did.
stuff. If it's
We
not
did,
there, it's
and we
not there.
could-
I mean, we'll
we
be
could-
fine in May.
You're right. I missed that one. We
That's
could
fine.
put that one in for the fall just to clean it up. That would be fine. I can plug that one in. You've already received it, so it's not as if it's missed the deadline.
Okay.
Is that,
Yeah.
wasn't it crossed off in the,
No, it's not
No.
crossed off or highlighted. It just says remove obsolete
No, I
revolving
just
funds from
missed it. It
table,
was at the
20
top,
dog
and-
license assessors and permitting software.
Yep, we could do that.
And that one's not going to be difficult to write, correct? That's not going to take a lot of
No.
your time to write that one up.
No, not at all. In fact, I think Barry would probably be able to put that one together. So I'm going to plug that in up near the front with these other bylaw articles, just because.
was it,
Margaret-
you weren't talking about the senior work off, were you? No.
Mm-mm.
No,
Okay.
I had been talking about that, but that one is crossed out because I do
Okay.
believe Yeah, the town actually accepted the provisions of the law that provide for the 125-hour maximum hours per program year. I would assume that the legislation eventually is going to change because the minimum wage and those hours do not match up anymore as far as the threshold. So I'm sure that'll change in the future, but we've established it. It's a maximum and we can work within that.
Okay, all right. I thought that was what he had asked.
I had that one in there, yes.
Okay.
So one final question, Margaret, are there any, whoops, we forgot to pay the bill? We need to pay
I
a
have
bill
not.
now?
To this point, I think I made a comment on that as far as unpaid bills of prior fiscal years.
Yep,
To my knowledge, as of this date, I am not aware of any.
nice.
Yay.
I know, yay.
Well-
Well, I know.
Again, I want to thank our accounting office for being on top of all of that because, yeah, it takes them being on top of that. So
Yay, June, yay, and Amy. All right. So are we good on the proposed articles? So next steps, Margaret, will be,
going to be cleanup from here on out.
Yep.
okay, all right. All right, so we are down.
Do we have any feedback on sort of the order of these? Because I think that's the reason why you haven't numbered them, is to figure out an order for them. And there doesn't, I've looked at them a couple times and I found several floors that could work, but none that go, oh, this is the way the meeting has to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah,
Draw them out of
Yeah.
a hat for all I care at this point, but.
it's putting the bylaws first is not the usual course. And I don't have a preference. In fact, I usually put, the financial articles
Mhm,
first and then
mhm.
work our way to the bylaws. But we could set it up however we want. And yeah, it's best to categorize them,
Yeah.
put them in some sort of order.
Bylaws really aren't anything that, people get to that point if they're at the end of the meeting and they'll leave. I think they might be important enough that people might want to take a vote on them.
So
Even early.
up front, yeah, okay.
Well, and some of them are, adding a state holiday to the list of state holidays, hopefully is not going to be controversial. Removing funds that we're not allowed to track by law anymore should not. I'd like to be able to characterize that a lot of what we are doing is sort of cleanup stuff, which is not fiscal.
Yeah,
The only one that has some substance to it is adding flexibility to how we send out town reports, and
Yes.
potentially separating the town report from the town annual town meeting warrant, which could be a conversation sparker in town.
It is. That came up a couple years ago. And it.
And
I
then we
think-
passed over it because they weren't prepared, right?
Correct. At our first coffee talk, whenever that was, way many years ago, that was like the first item that
Mhm.
came up. So I'm
Because
glad
they
that
just
we're,
wanted to get that annual town report or the warrant earlier.
correct,
Mhm.
correct.
And so I think we're doing a better job of that, I think.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
trying to stay on track.
All
Stick
right.
to the calendar.
The calendar. All right, so no further discussions on that. New business. We don't have any.
Oh, you do.
Oh,
Oh,
This
that's
is an item that, and I don't have the printout of it. I need to ask, submit my notice of intent to the board to appoint an acting wiring inspector
Yep.
until the permanent position is filled. So by the act, under the act, I need to notify you of intended appointments. Our alternate building inspector, Dennis Montero, has expressed his willingness to step up in the interim to take on, to assume the duties of the wiring inspector, so we don't lose any ground with respect to inspections and permitting in that regard. So the board technically has 14 days to approve or deny, but you could affirmatively approve this tonight. And again, this is an item not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours. So
Right.
I ask the board to affirmatively approve my intent to appoint Dennis Montero to acting wiring inspector until the permanent position is filled.
So moved.
Second,
Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keefe, aye.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I was thinking of our training from just last week of like emergency and not foreseen when you
Yep.
break the 48 hours. Like, I think this counts as
This
not
guy.
foreseen.
Qualified.
Yeah.
qualifies.
All right, we are down to boards, questions, comments, liaison updates, go.
I think I am fine today.
All right, Chris, you got any?
I will just say that I went to the CMMPO meeting
Mhm.
at
Mhm.
5:30 that
That's
last
Thursday. Yep.
Wednesday or Thursday or whatever it was. There were 3 people there.
It's a good
3
thing you
select
went then.
board members, and they were doing looking for a representative and an alternate. That was the purpose of the meeting. So when I introduced myself, I told them I was spread very thin and did not think that I could take it on. So the other 2, Mo DiPaolo from Shrewsbury and Shelby Marshall from Westboro. Shelby was in my motion was appointed the representative, and Mo, who has been on for years as the representative, is now the alternate. So that was what I had from that. And then I also just wanted to say that I did think that the training that we went to last Thursday night at 6:30 really went very well. And I would just, like I said that night, I think reaffirm that I think we should do this annually. It's kind of like a refresher, like, oh yeah, I remember, okay, that's how it works, that kind of thing. But I thought it went very well, and there's always something new that you learn every time you go, or anytime you get any kind of training. Actually, it made me think about how I've missed getting the training annually through school committee. We'd go to Hyannis, every year in November, and go to classes and things for like 3 days. So, it's beneficial.
Professors are great, and Liz is just so entertaining.
Yeah.
Who knew there were
So were
that many
you.
Apple brands? Oh yeah, Margaret in the car, honestly.
Yeah. So
Were
was
you
Margaret.
down at-
Margaret was a little entertaining.
Were you at your apartment or were you down at the town hall?
I was at my apartment, and
Oh, God.
the internet went out at 6:59 p.m.
Of course it did.
I scrambled, didn't get a good signal, just threw my flip-flops on, ran out to the car, drove down the street, and sat there for the train. Yep, it was comfortable.
All right. Well, it's a good thing it was warm.
Well, we need to get you some internet that works then.
I don't, yeah, I don't get it.
Mhm. So following up on that, on the training, are there any plans for it to roll to other committees, commissions in town?
Yeah, that would be a great idea.
Share it.
Training. Yeah.
There's the
Yeah.
video. We could actually also, if we share with folks, give them time markers, like, because some of the stuff is more specific to select board than
Right.
Yeah,
others.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Following up on a comment that Scott had made.
Oh. What did I say now?
Be afraid, be very afraid. Given like the whole tax bill issue and issue with postmarks and things like that. And I think, Margaret, you had mentioned it last week. Do we invite either Representative Trahan or Meg or Senator Cronin to come to a meeting and kind of tell us what's going on and what they're doing? And
I would love to have them come for annual update meetings, maybe in November, maybe in November sometime. We should send in, I'm happy to, maybe Mary could invite them to come. I don't know what date.
We could do it after the special town meeting.
Yeah, you have 5 meeting dates scheduled in November. I don't see why we couldn't
We
ask them to
can't.
come to one of those.
all right.
That would be, let's see, we have Susan Henry coming on the 15th, so maybe the 22nd,
Okay.
right before the Thanksgiving break.
All right. Get them before they skip town.
Mhm.
See, Scottsville wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Coffee talk. Are we having one before the town election? Jesus God, town.
Special town meeting.
I think
thank
you
you.
were talking about doing something. So you have a meeting scheduled the week of October 25th. I think you were talking about doing something the Thursday of that week. That would be the 28th? 28th.
28th. Okay,
Is that 28th?
because then the town meeting is what, a
The
week and a
8th.
few days after that. So that's probably good because it'll be.
It's about a
middle
week
of
and-
mine.
Yeah. we-
Actually, I have it on my calendar for October 14th.
Oh, October
Oh.
14th. Scott's not going to be here then, though.
I'm out of
Yeah.
country that week, but
Oh, okay. I think I remember you saying that when we scheduled it.
Yeah,
For the
I
14th?
mean, it was just so that we had enough time before the special town meeting.
yeah. So can we
Um,
move it to the 28th?
Is that too
It's-
close to it, or is that okay? I don't really care. It doesn't matter.
Well, I'm thinking it'll be fresh in people's mind.
That's
you
what
know,
I'm
and-
thinking
And that they
too.
can have questions.
All
If you
right.
back up a couple weeks earlier, they'll be like, what?
Yeah,
All right.
okay.
And
Cool.
then final one, so Berlin Lions and our rec department, they're putting together, Berlin Lions is doing a Halloween stroll down at Berlin Memorial, and over somewhere on the Commons, Recreation is also doing some fun Halloween events, stomping pumpkins, AKA orange balloons, costume contests, donut eating contests and things like that. So October 30th, I think it's from 3 to 5. Dave's already been in touch with the school to make sure that it's fine. There's no issue. Margaret, thank you for pointing me in his direction for that. So probably more to come out on that, but it's nice to see that there'll be some fun activities brought back to the town for the kids around Halloween.
No, dare I ask? No.
La 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 la. Nope.
Okay, okay,
I
got it.
I know it's a private event that we invite really the town to. I believe our neighborhood's at least discussing having
Oh, the
trick or
the
treating up
Halloween
by,
weekend?
yeah. I know we've always liked it. We've canceled it as the previous year because of COVID. I know there's discussions going on right now. I'm not core to them, but
Okay.
there's likely something up here.
Well, all right, so Scott, I mean, if, I'm assuming you'd probably have that on Halloween night, which is.
Yeah, yes,
fun day.
definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. But yeah, so just, keep an eye out.
Mhm.
Again, I think it's like 3 to 5 on Saturday. There's a soccer game, so I think Julie's trying to get Dave to move his event a little bit, for that, so. But fun and activity, so I'm sure if you're around, head on down. And that's all I got. So with that, 8:32, the
32,
motion, 8:32, got a motion?
so moved to adjourn.
Second,
Boom, Stone Eye,
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
awesome.